Thank you very much indeed. So I feel a bit of a fraud as I stand here in front of you because I'm not a licensee at all. I'm a licensor. I manage a brand and I seek people to take licenses from me. But I do have some experience of licensing, and I'm happy to try and moderate this session while relying on the expertise of the panel, which I hope will also be bolstered by a couple of additional speakers who haven't yet joined us. So at this stage, I really want to start a general discussion about what it is to be a licensee, and what are the pitfalls, what are the challenges, what are the advantages of licensing a brand and taking a property into your own expertise in manufacturing. And I'm going to start with a very simple question. So if you'd like to pick up a microphone. Lubaina, I was talking with you before. Yes. I know you run a very successful sock manufacturing business.
Yes.
And you license a number of properties.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us what licensed properties has added to your business?
We have been licensing properties for about 20 years now. We started out with Disney very many years ago. I think licensing properties gives you a platform where you connect with audiences internationally. Because we had licenses of Disney and other international properties, we were able to connect with international audiences, making our brand, making our company connect with the audiences all over the world. That's what it's done, basically.
So you've built an international distribution business.
Right. That's right.
How much of your business is based here in India?
I would say 60% of our business is India, 40%
Okay.
is export. Yes.
Fantastic. And have the licensed brands that you've taken obviously have enabled you to reach around the world, but have they also enabled you to penetrate further into Indian retail?
Of course. Actually, Indian retail was confused when we started off with characters like Disney, because who wants to buy a mouse on a pair of socks? They were confused. So it meant explaining to them the values of what Mickey Mouse stood for, Minnie Mouse stood for, and because 20 years ago, there was not that much exposure with television, your mobile phones, the internet. So we went through a tough time initially trying to penetrate the smaller markets. It was easier in the metros. Now, of course, it's a different ball game completely.
Okay. So Hardik, I'll turn to you.
Hi.
So why are you in licensing? Why have you chosen to take a license?
I'll just begin from the beginning where
Please
I started. Started my career 20 years back with marketing globally to Middle East countries and some parts of Europe. And normally when I used to travel, most of the customers used to ask me one simple question that, do you have a German quality, but we need a Chinese price? So this is, I used to stare back at them. Okay, well, German quality, Chinese price, it's a big gap. Somehow we coped up, we tried to bridge the gap, and we were able to penetrate the market. But then eventually we saw a shift in the market. What's happening right now with the consumers, we see that the brand consciousness is way higher. So with a good brand backing your product range, it's credibility. You already passed. After that comes visibility. And then if the product has a good idea in it, it easily gets accepted. So that's the first step. You have to clear this milestone to make it a successful model. So
okay. That's not bad. That's a good start. Thank you. So what I'm also very interested in seeing in India, we've all noted the growth in organized retail in particular, which makes it a far more accessible market for licensed product to be sold consistently and presented in the context that enables to tell the story, for instance, of Mickey Mouse. And of course, what has also happened is that homegrown Indian brands have become more powerful. India has grown in its creativity and its own homegrown properties. Lubaina, I know that you license both homegrown and international brands. What would you say were the differences and the similarities between those two brand types? Oops.
I think international properties have a different appeal. Our Indian brands have a larger appeal. Have a different connect with our audience. Going back to your earlier question, Chris, what was the hurdles that we faced initially was retailer acceptance. They couldn't understand why we were selling licensed products, why it was more expensive. When you're making a licensed product, you're making an international quality, which hence gets a little more expensive. So we had to go through a whole process of explaining everything to the retail. Getting back to your question of licensing properties from India, it's something new that we've recently gotten into. We've started with Motu Patlu. It's a new character. It's great. It's like Laurel and Hardy of India. They're funny. They're witty. One eats all the time and makes mistakes. One is correcting the other one's mistakes. We're doing exceptionally well in that. There are a lot of other homegrown characters that we're going to work with soon. The companies that have these licenses are new. They're learning with us. But because we've been in the licensing industry for a while, we know how it works. We know how the product works. So we're almost guiding the new companies to help them take the product forward. Because the initial the hurdle we face is getting the product to the smaller towns, the BNC towns, where we don't have a robust distribution system. Now we have a stronger distribution channels, and now we're getting products into smaller towns as well. And with the Indian characters, we're doing exceptionally well. So hopefully we're going to add on a few more. Yeah.
So it's in some ways it's a different consumer that you've added on to your existing distribution with the international brands, reaching it further into the smaller towns and distribution network that previously was unavailable to you. So basically it's added an additional...
Yes, of course. See, we were distributing the international licenses into the smaller towns, but there was not that much of a connect. Today, if you, Motu Patlu has the Motu, the guy, he eats samosas all the time. So somebody sitting in a little village will be able to connect with him eating a samosa more than connecting with, say, a Sophie, a Princess Sophie, who we also have. Sophie is a metro character.
Yeah.
It's somebody who speaks English, who wears dresses, who eats at a dining table maybe. This is different.
Yes.
So we're looking at connecting with larger audiences to the different characters that we have, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's very interesting. Now, I think at this point it's probably time to come clean. Hardik Vassar International is a licensee for Oxford. So we're a partner in crime in this regard. So Hardik, I'm interested in knowing how deep you think Oxford as an international brand will go in the same way that Lubaina was talking, into the smaller towns and into the further away from the slightly more westernized Indian consumer.
I see it's an irony that today we say the most of the business is coming from the metros,
Yeah.
but it's reverse right now. Most of the business is coming from 2-tier and 3-tier cities.
Really?
We see a strong consumer base over there because of internet, e-commerce. We see people see the brand, see the products.
Right.
So the visibility has gone up. And I think sky is the limit, 100%. It's the business, and of course, with Oxford as a brand, best of credibility, everyone can connect.
Yeah.
I don't need to introduce myself, so it takes care of most of the headache. And and once they, because of that, they start getting into what's the product, what's it about, why, what's the USP, so it becomes much easier to connect with them. We have all ears,
Okay.
100% attention.
Well,
So
that's
that makes,
a good start.
Yeah, that makes things much smoother, much better. So that's my experience has been very nice, amazing. yeah.
Okay. This is really interesting, and I'm really pleased to say I'm learning stuff as we talk about this. My perception as an outsider had been that licensing had been driven by the growth in organized retail. And certainly that's a key factor. But what you're telling me is that, in fact, it's the tier 2, tier 3 cities that are just as important to a distribution strategy. And that even if there are international brands, do you think they are compromised in that lower or different style distribution? And Luana, you were saying that you felt that it was the Indian brand that was the most powerful proposition for the consumer there. Do you think over time and more exposure to television and the internet, that will change?
Of course, of course. The international brands would but your question means that will the international brands also reach out to the BNCs? Yes, of course. But when you go as an international brand, you need a store, you need a presence, you need VM.
Yeah.
The stores that reach out through distribution are the small mom and pop shops, which would mean they would buy small quantities, they would have it in a little glass counter, and they would sell it over the counter. That's what we do. We reach out to there. So when I was in Srinagar, walking down a road, I saw leg warmers hanging out there. That's what it means. So that's how robust your distribution has to be there. So with the internet, with the advertising, with television, I think our Indian consumer is getting more and more keen to be able to reach out to the brands that you get internationally as well. And it has great potential, yes, I see that.
Okay, thank you. So I'm also very interested in hearing what's hard. So we've talked about success so far. We've talked about what licensed properties have brought to you. What's hard about being a licensee?
Open a can of worms.
Well, look, I'm a licensor, so I'm prepared to take it on the chin. You go and sock it to me.
Okay. What's hard? Hard is when a licensor comes and tells you, you know, India has so many billion population, multiplied by number of consumers, multiplied by this is the kind of numbers that we want. It doesn't happen.
No.
Because you need partners all the way down who understand the values of the brand, values of the property, the logistics partners, which I think we're now getting in shape. Do you know that our product goes all the way to Guwahati and it takes us 20 days to send it to Dimapur in Kohima. It takes us 25 days to just get the product there.
Wow.
So we have a law within the same country.
Yeah.
So we're battling with so much more. So that's hard. And for us to be able to explain to a Westerner who comes in and who opens his computer and says, all right, I need to send a package to this place. He opens it up, goes to his the website of DHL, puts in the weight, gets the calculation, and his package is being picked up by evening.
Yeah, and
we
there
don't
the next
work
day.
like that.
No.
We have 15 calls to make, we have 5 times to check online, and we have 10 people to make sure that the package is packed correctly.
Right.
So for the brands coming in from the West and to understand the basic infrastructure that we lack, and the kind of hurdles that we have to go through on a day-to-day basis to be able to achieve the standard that you are already achieving there is what we find it difficult. Because for you guys, It's easy to walk into a place and have an internet connection set up, a phone connection set up, whereas here to get a phone connection might take us a month sometimes. So the basic infrastructure is what we need for you guys to understand, and also of course we needed a lot of hand holding in terms of design. I mean, we make socks. When a licensor comes to us, we say, all right, help us make socks, and they'll give us a guide. We need more than a guide. We need design input. We need hand holding. We need help in terms of getting all the licensees together and say, okay, let's make a platform and let's have a theme out. Let's have everything out together at one time, so everything on the floor looks uniform.
Yeah.
So we need the licensors to understand that from our part. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Hardik, I'm not sure I dare ask,
Yeah.
given that I'm the licensor. What do you find hard about being a licensee?
I agree with her on some points. The infrastructure is something we have to. That's the reality. We have to
Yeah.
go by that. But as far as a licensee and my relationship with my licensor, it's been. I need to touch wood for that, because lovely turnarounds. I have worked with other licensees in the past, and the approvals coming in time. There is this approvals coming in time. It takes off the product. It's introduced in time. So all this, this thing starts with a positivity, so it ends with a positivity.
Okay.
And of course, when we are placing the brand in the market, we have some issues with the prices. But it's part and parcel for every new brand which gets introduced in the market.
Yeah.
But we have to take it as a long-term vision, and we have to find ways out. It's
Okay. Thank
For
you.
more?
Yeah.
Minimum guarantees.
MGs.
Oh my God.
It's
We
interesting.
make socks, not apparel. So you have to understand the product is smaller. The MGs cannot be that high. The period cannot be only for a year. It has to be for a minimum of 2 to 3 years, because it takes a year to build a relationship. It takes at least a year for us to understand the brand, to understand the values, to understand how it works. And then by the first year, when you've got everything, you put the product in the market, you set it up, and then for the next 2 years, you're actually reaping the benefits. So
Yeah.
yeah, so they come across, licensing tenure is usually a year, and we try to push it to 2 years or 3 years. Because the MGs are high then. It's very, very difficult for us to see that it's a profitable situation for the company, yes.
So I think what I'm getting from both of that is that it's about matching expectations. It's about making licensors from the West understand that India is not another USA or Western Europe. There are some very unique challenges here.
And it's typical to our country, to this country, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but I celebrate that.
I
I'm
do,
so
I do.
excited
I do,
about
but
India.
It just makes our work harder, because we have to make sure that we have the facts and figures to be able to convince the licensor. I work on gut. I'm not a facts and figures guy. I have Ruhan sitting there in the audience who will back up numbers, but a gut won't work with a licensor. So it makes our work harder. We have to explain and be able to convince the licensor that this is how it works. And I think with so many licensors coming into India, they are now understanding the ground reality and the challenges that we actually face, and which is nicer. It's been a long journey, but it's a relief to be able to see everybody understand us now. Yeah.
Great. Now, we've got a couple more minutes. I'll open the floor, if you like, to questions. We probably only have time for one. But does anybody have a question that they want to put to Hardik or Lubaina? No? That's okay, I've got one. I know that another major factor from Western brands in particular is compliance. Compliance to ethical trading standards, working conditions. Also, anti-graft is a very big factor for British and American companies, because there are very, very punitive laws in place that makes it an offence for the licensor to be associated with graft wherever it happens in their name around the world. Are you sensing a change in the level of expectations of compliance that you're being asked to meet? Is it a challenge for you here in India?
Our company is compliant. We work with international brands like Marks and Spencer, Debenhams, Next. So we're already compliant. And the only challenge is, again, we believe in compliance. We believe in the whole the system of it. The challenge is getting it all together because, again, infrastructure. We have a factory in Palghar. It's a little town on the way to Gujarat from Maharashtra. The road to the factory from the main road has to be built by us. The municipal corporation doesn't build it for us. So even the basic infrastructure is what we have to do. So we have to absorb that cost.
Yeah.
But we do it because we believe in it. And I sense a change, yes, because that's the only way forward. That's the
Hardik?
only way forward.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, having the compliances in place. We started with, we are an export firm, so we had all the paperwork. We know the benchmarks, the deadlines, the targets. So it's always been, as far as the execution is concerned, the compliances are concerned, we have had them in place. So having the Indian footprints wasn't very difficult because most of the stuff we are getting it from overseas.
Okay.
So we get it, we have a warehousing, and then we distribute the same. So it's not been a very tough ride as of now, and keeping my fingers crossed for the same, yeah.
We all do that. Okay, I think, have I run out of time? I think, that's going to be the session. Thank you very much for your attention.